America's job market looks strong on paper, but behind the headlines, it's quietly crumbling. In the last 6 months alone, more than 100,000 Americans have been laid off by the same corporations once considered untouchable. The headlines call it efficiency. Economists call it realignment. But for millions of families, watching savings vanish and mortgages fall behind, it feels like something far more serious. A slow-motion collapse of the world's largest economy. From Silicon Valley's glass towers to the assembly plants of the Midwest, a quiet revolution is underway. One where automation replaces loyalty and algorithms replace livelihoods. Amazon, Google, Disney, Tesla, even Walmart. The names that once defined progress are now cutting thousands of jobs in a desperate race to protect their profits. And every layoff, every pink slip is another crack in the illusion of stability. The United States is entering what analysts have begun calling the Great Correction. A nationwide reset where inflated corporate giants are forced to confront a brutal truth. Growth built on cheap money and endless consumption cannot last forever. Behind every corporate announcement lies a deeper signal. The U.S. economic collapse isn't coming. It's already here, hidden behind record stock prices and political optimism. In this countdown, we'll expose the top 10 companies quietly collapsing in 2025 and reveal what their downfall means for every American worker, homeowner, and investor. Stay till the end because when you see which company tops this list, you'll realize how fragile the American dream has truly become. Number 10, Amazon. When the world's largest online retailer starts cutting its own people, it's not just a corporate decision, it's a national alarm bell. In 2025, Amazon, once the unstoppable engine of the pandemic economy, has slashed more than 14,000 jobs across multiple divisions, from cloud computing in Virginia to logistics hubs in Ohio. For years, Amazon symbolized infinite growth. Its workforce swelled to over 1.5 million employees, making it the second largest private employer in the United States, right behind Walmart. But in a post-boom reality, that size has become its greatest weakness. E-commerce growth that once exploded by 37% in 2020 has slowed to barely 3% today. Warehouses once packed with millions of daily packages now sit half-empty, conveyor belts silent and scanners idle. Inside Amazon's headquarters in Seattle, executives call it efficiency realignment. Economists see something deeper. The unwinding of America's consumption model. When ordinary Americans can no longer afford groceries, gadgets, or streaming subscriptions, even a trillion-dollar retailer bleeds. Describe a mood of disbelief. Engineers and analysts who helped build the backbone of the digital economy now refreshing job boards instead of dashboards. Outside Seattle, local cafes near Amazon's offices have seen customer traffic fall 30%, a small but symbolic aftershock of a corporate quake. Amazon was built on three things: speed, scale, and convenience. But those very strengths have become liabilities in a slowing economy. The empire that promised 2-day delivery couldn't deliver 2 days' notice to its own people. Number 9. Google Alphabet. When the world's smartest company starts laying off its thinkers, it's not about cutting costs. It's about losing confidence. In 2025, Google's parent company, Alphabet, eliminated more than 12,000 positions, including AI researchers, software engineers, and longtime veterans who helped shape the internet as we know it. Inside Mountain View, the hum of innovation has turned into a chilling silence. Teams that once pioneered products like Google Cloud and YouTube, AI recommendations have vanished overnight. Employees didn't get face-to-face meetings or farewell calls, just a line in an automated email. Your role has been impacted. For a company built on connection, the disconnection feels surreal. The cause runs deeper than budget trimming. Google's digital ad revenue fell by nearly 8% in 2024, erasing around $12 billion in projected profit. Businesses across the country are slashing marketing budgets. And new platforms like TikTok, Meta Reels, and AI-driven search startups are stealing audience time. Even YouTube, once a guaranteed cash machine, is seeing views stagnate for the first time in a decade. Meanwhile, Google Cloud, which was expected to offset the decline, missed growth targets by $2.44 billion last quarter. Analysts say Alphabet's payroll, which ballooned to over 190,000 employees during the pandemic, simply became unsustainable. But this story isn't just corporate, it's cultural. Silicon Valley once stood for fearless innovation. Now, the very companies that built the digital revolution are dismantling it. Local tax revenues in Santa Clara County are already down, and thousands of subcontracted tech workers are out of jobs with no severance. For decades, Google defined the future, organizing the world's information, connecting billions, shaping how we learn and earn. But today, even the architects of that digital empire are uncertain about their own futures. Number 8. Boeing. For over a century, Boeing was the pride of American engineering, a company that represented safety, precision, and national strength. But in 2025, that reputation is disintegrating. The aerospace giant has announced 12,000 layoffs, roughly 10% of its global workforce, as the company faces mounting crises that reach far beyond its assembly lines. The numbers are staggering. Boeing now carries over $52 billion in debt, with interest payments exceeding $600 million every quarter. After a string of safety scandals, aircraft malfunctions, and lawsuits totaling more than $4.3 billion, even longtime customers are canceling orders. Factories in Washington and South Carolina, once alive with the sound of riveters and turbines, now stand eerily quiet monuments to corporate overreach and broken trust. The human cost is harder to calculate. In towns like Everett and Renton, Washington, entire communities were built around Boeing's payroll. Now, families who once designed and assembled aircraft for generations are facing unemployment lines for the first time in decades. Local housing prices are falling. Small businesses are shuttering. And once booming neighborhoods are turning hollow internally, morale has collapsed. Former engineers describe an atmosphere of disbelief. An iconic company now governed more by spreadsheets than by craftsmanship. Analysts warned that the ripple effects could cost an additional 30,000 indirect jobs across suppliers and logistics partners. Boeing's downfall isn't just a corporate tragedy. It's a symbol of a fading industrial America. The pursuit of profit replaced the pursuit of perfection, and shortcuts replaced standards. The same company that once lifted America into the skies is now being dragged down by its own gravity. When the wings of Boeing falter, it's not just planes that fall. It's the entire foundation of American manufacturing. Number 7. Disney. Once upon a time, Disney wasn't just a company. It was America's escape from reality. But in 2025, even magic has an expiration date. Facing an economic storm of rising costs, declining attendance, and crushing debt, Disney has laid off more than 7,000 employees across its global empire. The story behind those numbers is grim. Disney's streaming division reported losses of over $2.2 billion last year, while attendance at its Florida and California theme parks has fallen by nearly 18% year over year. Families simply can't afford the dream anymore. $200 tickets, $10 churros, and $400 hotel rooms have priced out the middle class that once filled the parks. Debt now exceeds $45 billion, forcing executives to cut budgets, cancel projects, and outsource creative departments. Inside Burbank, entire animation teams, artists who once brought life to Pixar and Marvel blockbusters, have been replaced by AI-driven production tools. One former Imagineer summed it up bitterly. "We gave our lives to make people smile." But Disney's crisis runs deeper than its balance sheet. The company that built generations of joy is now a mirror of America's economic strain. Local vendors near Walt Disney World have seen revenues fall 35%. Tourism jobs have evaporated, and the once booming Orlando hospitality sector is shrinking fast. Internally, tension is boiling. Executives argue whether to prioritize profit or creativity, while workers describe morale at historic lows. What was once the happiest place on earth now feels like a corporate battlefield. For decades, Disney symbolized hope, imagination, and the promise of escape. But when joy itself becomes unaffordable, the illusion of prosperity fades. Number 6. Tesla. For years, Tesla was more than a car company. It was a movement, a symbol of progress and possibility. But in 2025, that electric dream is flickering. Tesla has announced 14,000 job cuts, roughly 10% of its workforce, sending shockwaves through both Wall Street and Main Street. Inside its factories in Texas, Nevada, and California, production lines are slowing. The global demand for electric vehicles, once projected to surge endlessly, has begun to stall. Battery material costs have surged 25%, and Chinese competitors like BYD are undercutting Tesla's prices by several 3 digits per car. The company once legendary delivery growth, 50%, year over year in 2020 or rosier in 2021, has plunged to barely 5% this year. The financial toll is massive. Tesla's market value has dropped more than 30% since last year, erasing roughly $250 billion from its capitalization. At the same time, high interest rates have turned car ownership into a luxury. The average monthly payment for a Tesla Model Y now exceeds $900, pushing it out of reach for most middle-class buyers. Inside the company, the mood is tense. Departments have been merged, projects frozen, and engineers told their roles are being replaced by AI automation. Quality control issues, delayed Cybertruck orders, and safety recalls costing over $1.3 billion in 2024 have further strained morale. Former employees described the transition as abrupt and cold. A company that once inspired innovation, now running on fear and fatigue. Beyond Tesla's gates, the consequences are multiplying. Suppliers in Michigan, battery contractors in Nevada, and solar panel teams in Texas are all feeling the pain. Economists estimate as many as 20,000 additional indirect jobs could vanish as Tesla scales back. Tesla was supposed to lead America into the future. But what happens when the future itself becomes unaffordable? Number 5. Meta. In 2025, Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, cut more than 20,000 jobs, dismantling teams across its core platforms and experimental divisions. The company's value, once soaring above $1 trillion, has fallen nearly 40% from its peak. The cause? A catastrophic bet on the metaverse, one of the most expensive miscalculations in tech history. Meta poured $13 billion into building virtual worlds that no one wanted to live in, Reality Labs. The division behind that dream is still losing $2.8 billion per quarter. Across Meta's campuses, silence has replaced the once buzzing energy of collaboration. Cafeterias stand half empty and entire office wings have gone dark. Employees describe ghost floors, where lights are turned off to save costs. For many, the end came not from a meeting, but from an automated email. Financially, the situation is dire. Advertising revenue. The lifeblood of Meta's empire has fallen by $10 billion as small businesses cut marketing budgets and younger users abandon Facebook altogether. Instagram is bleeding engagement to TikTok, while Threads, the much-hyped Twitter killer, lost 80% of its daily users within months. The human cost is harder to quantify. Engineers, designers, and developers, many earning six-figure salaries and carrying mortgages, are suddenly part of the largest white-collar layoff wave since the financial crisis of 2008. For years, Meta's promise was connection to bring the world closer together. But now, the company feels more disconnected than ever from its people, its vision, and its purpose. When the empire built on likes starts losing love, it's more than a business correction. It's a cultural collapse. For decades, Warner Bros. Discovery stood as the beating heart of Hollywood's creative machine, the studio behind HBO, CNN, and DC films. But by 2025, that heartbeat has weakened to a faint echo. The media giant has laid off more than 5,000 employees, the latest wave in a series of brutal cost-cutting moves that have sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. The company is drowning in $48 billion of debt, paying nearly $700 million in interest every quarter. In 2024 alone, Warner Bros. Discovery wrote off $2.5 billion worth of canceled movies, abandoned streaming projects, and unfinished shows. Once built as a new era merger between Warner Media and Discovery, it has instead become a cautionary tale of overextension and mismanagement. Streaming, which was supposed to be the future, is now the company's biggest liability. Subscriptions for Macs have stagnated. Ad revenue has dropped 12%, and content budgets have been gutted. Entire animation studios have shut down. Beloved series vanished from the platform overnight, not because audiences didn't love them, but because paying royalties was too expensive. The fallout spreads beyond Hollywood Boulevard. In Burbank and Atlanta, thousands of freelancers, editors, and small suppliers have lost contracts. Union leaders estimate more than 15,000 supporting jobs tied to Warner's productions will disappear in the next year. Sound stages that once buzzed with crews and cameras now sit dark, the air thick with dust and uncertainty. Executives call it streamlining. Insiders call it survival. Investors are furious. Creators are heartbroken. Warner stock has plunged 45% in just 2 years, erasing $20 billion in market value. The tragedy isn't just financial, it's cultural. When the storytellers can no longer afford to tell stories, a nation loses part of its soul. Number 3. UPS. For decades, UPS was the lifeline of American commerce. the brown trucks, planes, and drivers that kept the economy moving. But in 2025, even this delivery powerhouse is delivering bad news. The company has announced 12,000 layoffs after a dramatic collapse in e-commerce demand, signaling that the slowdown in consumer spending has finally reached the country's logistics core. At its peak during the pandemic, UPS moved nearly 25 million packages per day. Today, that number has fallen below 18 million, a loss of more than 7 million daily shipments, the equivalent of billions of dollars evaporating from the supply chain. In the last quarter, alone company revenue plunged 9.4%, while net profits fell from $2.8 billion to just $1.5 billion. Warehouses in Atlanta, Chicago, and Louisville, once roaring with conveyor belts and forklifts, are now scaling back operations. Entire sorting lines sit idle. The company's public statement blames market normalization, but insiders call it what it really is, a spending collapse. Americans are buying less, inflation is eating away disposable income, and small online retailers are disappearing. The human toll is immense. These layoffs don't just hit drivers, they hit administrative teams, warehouse managers, mechanics, and maintenance workers. In towns like Roswell, Georgia, local diners, gas stations, and laundromats are reporting sales down by 40% since the layoffs began. Communities built around UPS's payroll are now fighting for survival. Wall Street is also losing faith. UPS stock has fallen 28% this year, wiping out $40 billion in market value. Analysts warned that FedEx and regional carriers are cutting staff too, suggesting this isn't a company problem. It's a nationwide slowdown. Number 2, Intel. For half a century, Intel was the invisible engine of the modern world. Its microchips powered our laptops, data centers, and every digital innovation that defined American progress. But in 2025, that once mighty engine is sputtering. The company has announced 15,000 layoffs, the largest in its history, as it struggles to survive a brutal global technology slowdown. The numbers paint a sobering picture. Intel's revenues have fallen from $63 billion to just $44 billion in 2 years. Its market share in PC processors has collapsed, losing 30% to rivals AMD and Apple. The company's stock is down 35%, erasing roughly $70 billion in shareholder value. What went wrong? Intel bet big on a manufacturing resurgence, investing $20 billion in new chip plants from Arizona to Oregon, expecting a semiconductor boom that never arrived. Instead, consumer electronics demand collapsed. AI-focused competitors like NVIDIA took the spotlight, and the once dominant Intel found itself producing more chips than anyone wanted to buy. Inside the company, panic has replaced pride. Entire research divisions teams that spent decades developing next-generation processors have been dismantled. Factories now operate at half capacity, and thousands of highly skilled engineers are out of work. Local suppliers and contractors across the Pacific Northwest report canceled projects and unpaid invoices, threatening an additional 25,000 indirect jobs. Even government help couldn't stop the bleeding. The much-publicized $39 billion CHIPS Act subsidies arrived too late to reverse the decline. Intel's story is more than a corporate misstep. It's a warning. The company that once gave America speed and power is now struggling to keep up with its own legacy. In Silicon Valley, they call it the fall of the old guard. But to the rest of the country, it feels like something deeper. The moment the technological foundation of the U.S. economy began to crack. Number 1, Walmart. When Walmart starts cutting, jobs in America should start paying attention. Because this isn't just another company. It's the country's largest private employer with more than 1.6 million workers across the United States. And in 2025, that giant is quietly shrinking. Walmart has confirmed 25,000 job cuts, closed underperforming stores, and accelerated its shift to automation. All signs that the beating heart of American retail is faltering. For decades, Walmart symbolized affordability and stability. But today, even low prices can't compete with empty wallets. Real retail sales have fallen nearly 5% since 2024, and household credit card debt has climbed past $1.3 trillion, the highest in U.S. history. With food prices up 18% in just 3 years, shoppers are cutting back on everything from clothing to cleaning supplies. Walmart's new AI-driven fulfillment centers are saving the company nearly $2 billion annually, but at a devastating human cost. Thousands of cashiers, stockers, and warehouse workers, many earning just above minimum wage, are being replaced by self-checkouts and robots. Executives call it efficiency. Workers call it betrayal. The financial strain is undeniable. Inventory costs have risen 12%, while profit margins have fallen to their lowest in a decade, just 2.8%. In small towns across Texas, Ohio, and Tennessee, shuttered supercenters now stand as empty monuments to a collapsing consumer base. Local diners, gas stations, and barbershops, businesses that relied on Walmart's workforce, report sales down by 40% since the layoffs began. The emotional toll is equally haunting. Many of these employees spent decades in the company, believing Walmart offered security in uncertain times. Now they're realizing that if even the world's largest retailer can't keep its workers, no one is safe. Economists warn this is the final signal. The U.S. economic collapse isn't looming, it's unfolding. The strong job market was a mirage fueled by debt and denial. Across every sector, tech, manufacturing, retail, and entertainment, the same truth echoes. America's biggest companies are no longer engines of endless growth. They're signals of a system under strain. More than 120,000 corporate layoffs have swept through the economy, revealing what many feared: the U.S. economic collapse isn't a forecast. It's unfolding right now. 3 forces drive this correction. First, interest rates. The era of cheap money is over, and corporations are drowning in the debt they once used to grow. Second, inflation. Wages rise on paper, but real purchasing power keeps shrinking. Families are budgeting for survival, not comfort. And third, overextension. Companies that once bragged about scaling now can't sustain the weight of their own empires. But this collapse isn't the end. Economists call it a correction, a painful reset that could lay the groundwork for something better. Lower valuations open doors for new competitors. Smaller, smarter businesses may rise where the giants fell. And workers once seen as replaceable may finally reclaim leverage in the next chapter of capitalism. The American economy isn't dying. It's recalibrating. The question is, who will adapt and who will vanish? Which company's fall shocked you the most? Tell us below. If this breakdown opened your eyes, hit subscribe so you don't walk blind into your next investment or career move. Because in times like these, awareness isn't fear, it's survival. But this collapse isn't the end. Economists call it a correction, a painful reset, that could lay the groundwork for something better. Lower valuations open doors for new competitors. Smaller, smarter businesses may rise where the giants fell. And workers once seen as replaceable may finally reclaim leverage in the next chapter of capitalism. The American economy isn't dying, it's recalibrating. The question is, who will adapt and who will vanish? Which company's fall shocked you the most? Tell us below. If this breakdown opened your eyes, hit subscribe so you don't walk blind into your next investment or career move. Because in times like these, awareness isn't fear,